Here we go.
Here we go.
You know who they are? John Rouse
Are you on tape?
and David Ratcliffe.
Make sure you're on the phone. Deb, make sure you're on the phone.
I'd like to introduce.
Could you just step towards the microphones, please, Edward?
Yeah, these bit further forward, please. Yeah.
I'd like to introduce John Rouse, who is the Chief Officer of Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership, JONROUSE, and Dr. David Ratcliffe, RATCLIFFE, who is the Medical Director of North West Ambulance Service.
So if I could just kick off by, of course, first expressing our deep condolences in terms of the victims and their families. It's been a terrible night and morning in terms of Greater Manchester, although we've also seen some of the best aspects of Greater Manchester and the people who live there as well. We're going to present to the team because we've been working as a team over the last 18 hours or so, and I'm going to start by asking David to talk about what happened last night, the response, how we organised the response, and where people were taken to.
So, good afternoon. So last night when I arrived in the control centre shortly after the incident was declared, which was around 10:46 p.m, we'd already mounted the beginnings of our response. We sent 60 vehicles to the site, along with highly specialised crews, highly specialised teams that were able to stabilise patients at the scene, ensure that they received the right treatment at the scene before evacuation to the hospital, where we took 59 patients to the local A&Es around the Greater Manchester area. We've worked in collaboration with John and his partners for quite some time, preparing plans for situations such as this. We put those plans into place. We know each other well, we work together well as a team. Those plans were implemented and patients were cared for appropriately, quickly, with very good leadership from the local teams, and then very good care once they arrived in the hospitals, and they were straight to theatre if necessary, with hardly any delay at all, with nearly all the hospitals around the region.
So I think a number of you want to know the numbers that have gone to each individual hospital, so I'm going to get David just to share those with you.
So yesterday we sent Manchester Royal Infirmary, which is the hospital behind me, received 9 patients. These are patients that we took by ambulance. They were also walking wounded. Salford Royal Foundation Trust, another trauma centre, received 6 patients. Royal Manchester Children's Hospital received the most patients. They received 12 patients. University Hospital South Manchester received 6 patients. Stepping Hill Hospital in Stockport received 6 patients. Bolton Hospital received 8 patients. Oldham Hospital, Royal Oldham Hospital received 7 patients, and North Manchester Hospital received 5 patients. There were also a good number of walking wounded, which we obviously didn't transport.
And so we've been able to care for everybody within Greater Manchester this time, but we want to say, both from the perspective of the ambulance service but also the rest of the NHS as well, how overwhelmed we've been by the offers of support that we've received from other parts of the country. People have just not been able to do enough for us, and if you ever wanted to have a sense of one national health service, one NHS, everybody working together from frontline staff through to deeply specialist doctors, this has been the night and morning to experience that and everything that makes our NHS special.
And I would really like to echo that. So the local team leadership shown at the scene by people working in incredibly difficult circumstances was fantastic. So I was listening throughout the night from the control centre. We have a live feed all the time in our ears to people speaking on the ground. Everything was calm, everything was controlled, and the patients were cared for in a way that the specialist staff have been prepared for many years. We had doctors at scene, we had highly specialised paramedics and rescue teams at scene, and patients were evacuated very, very quickly to a safe area where they were stabilised and moved to the hospital.
John, you practice for mass casualty events. How did the reality differ from all those drills?
Well, in reality, we tested a scenario not that dissimilar to this 1 month ago. So we'd already got all our pre-dispersal plans in place. So it was literally a case of pulling those documents out from the outset and saying, we made a plan, we believe it's a good plan, we know where these individuals need to be taken because of the types of injuries that we can see that they're presenting. And now it's a case of getting them to those hospitals. We specialise in that type of care, and that's what we did.
Can you describe what type of injuries you were having to deal with?
Don't need to be told.
I wouldn't like to go into too many details. We have to realise that the patients that are involved in here have families, and these families, we know in these incidents that some of the distress that comes after the shock of the initial incident becomes when they start to really think about what's happened and the implication for their lives. You can imagine what injuries there might be. There's such a terrible, terrible device we left in a crowded space, but I wouldn't like to detail the injuries that we saw last night.
Dr. Ratcliffe, Anita McVeigh, BBC News Channel, could you possibly give us a breakdown of how many adults and children are being treated? I know you mentioned there were 12 children specifically.
So 12 children went to Royal Manchester Children's Hospital,
Yes.
and they're the children that we took to that hospital. The other hospital received mostly adults, and then there were walking wounded which will have gone to different centres, some of which will have been children, to those centres. I don't really want to extrapolate on the number of children and the number of adults, as for the same reasons that I've just mentioned, is that we don't want to start imagining things around what happened last night, and especially for the families that were involved.
Can you say how many are critically ill and how many are stable?
No, that would be a situation for each individual hospital to report on according to who is in their care. But what we can say is that clearly there are a number of individuals who have very, very serious injuries and are requiring intensive care, and people who are going to be in hospital for a long time in terms of that treatment. So one of the things we now have to plan for, including mutual support from other areas, is how we ensure that we don't put too much pressure on our hospitals as they are treating and caring for these severely injured individuals.
Sorry to press, but this was an event for children. It's relevant to ask how many children are being treated.
So as I'll repeat, that we transported 12 seriously injured children to Royal Manchester Children's Hospital.
And by children, what's the age?
So they're under 16.
Under 16.
Can you give us an idea of the youngest patients being treated at all?
I can't at this time, I'm afraid.
Have you had to bring in specialist doctors from elsewhere in the country to help?
At this moment in time, as far as I understand it, all the doctors that were treating these patients are from Greater Manchester. Last night I spoke to all the emergency departments that were admitting patients regularly throughout the night. I know most of those doctors personally, and they're all local doctors.
How many staff were called in extra to those who were already at work to help with the incredible effort put in last night?
So in terms of the ambulance service, we have an enormous amount of people who volunteered to come in on such incidents. So the sheer number of those people I can't comment on. There were 300 people involved in the actual incident itself, some of which will have been rotated and some of which will have come in voluntarily. We also have to ensure during these occasions, because we don't know how long they will last, and we don't know what will actually happen within the incident, that the patients who need the usual emergency care are receiving that care. So what we do at the same time is we ensure that all the patients that would be calling an ambulance for usual care receive that care. So we often have to bring extra staff in to ensure that that happens, and I can assure people that last night that did happen in Greater Manchester.
How busy was last night anyway before this happened?
Yesterday was a very busy day, and as the night comes on, the light eases off a little bit. So as the night comes on, you find that the number of resources that we need starts to decrease. So we have a lot of ambulances parked at stations which we can then remobilise very quickly.
Can you give a rough idea of the 59 who are seriously ill?
No,
is it quite a large proportion?
We're not going to talk about that this time.
Right. And is it right there was a conference of doctors in Manchester who
Sorry, that's it now, please. That's it
I'm
now.
not aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
John Rouse, ROUSC. No H.
ROUSC.
She's on 200.